When we think of the ancient world, we think of the pyramids, we think of pharaohs, gold, and monuments built for the dead. But while the Egyptians were stacking stones to immortalize their kings, another civilization thousands of miles away was doing something arguably more impressive. They weren't building for the dead. They were engineering for the living. They had flush toilets. They had complex sewer systems. They had cities laid out on perfect grids that rival modern Manhattan. They controlled a territory larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. And then they vanished. No massive wars. No burned palaces. Just a ghost story written in brick. Today, we are investigating the advanced technology and the terrifying silence of the Indus Valley civilization. Welcome back. To understand this mystery, we first have to grasp the scale. We are talking about the Harappan civilization, commonly known as the Indus Valley civilization. Between 2600 and 1900 BC, this wasn't just a collection of villages. It was a massive, synchronized machine. It covered over 1 million square kilometers. That is a massive territory. And across this vast expanse, they built thousands of settlements. The two most famous giants were Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. But here is the first clue that something strange was going on. These cities weren't evolved haphazardly over time like London or Rome. They were planned. Someone, or some group, sat down with a blueprint before a single brick was laid. But who were they? And how did they manage to build a futuristic society in the Bronze Age? If you walk through the ruins of Pompeii or ancient Athens, the streets wind and curve. But if you walked through Mohenjo-daro 4,000 years ago, you'd be walking on a grid. The streets ran perfectly north-south and east-west. This shows an advanced understanding of wind patterns to naturally air-condition the city, but it also proves a rigid, centralized authority. But the real high-tech smoking gun isn't the streets, it's the bricks. In Mesopotamia, they used sun-dried mud bricks that crumbled. In the Indus Valley, they used baked bricks, kiln-fired, waterproof, durable. And here is the mind-blowing part, whether you were in Harappa or in a town hundreds of miles away, the bricks were the exact same ratio 1:2:4. Think about the logistics of that. Standardized weights and measures enforced across a territory twice the size of Texas. They had standard ruler measurements that were incredibly precise, down to 1.7 millimeters. They didn't build giant temples for the gods. Their central monument was the Great Bath, a massive, waterproof public pool. This suggests their culture valued cleanliness and public utility over religious hierarchy. But if you think their architecture was advanced, wait until you see their plumbing. In 18th century Europe, people were still throwing waste out of windows into the street. But in 2500 BC, the Indus people had a sanitation system that wouldn't be matched until the Roman Empire. Almost every house in these major cities had a bathing area. Many had toilets, actual seats, connected to drains. These weren't open sewers. They were covered drains, lined with bricks, running beneath the streets. They had manholes for inspection and cleaning. They utilized gravity to move waste out of the city and into cesspits. In the city of Dolavira, located in a much drier region, they took water management to a sci-fi level. They built 16 massive reservoirs and intricate dams to harvest rainwater. They understood hydraulics in a way that seems impossible for the time. This was a civilization obsessed with water, purity, and order. But this obsession with order leads us to the biggest mystery of all. When we dig up Egypt, we find statues of Ramses. We find murals of kings smiting their enemies. We find weapons, chariots, and mass graves of soldiers. In the Indus Valley, we find almost nothing. We have found very few weapons. No swords designed for war. No depictions of armies. No monumental palaces for a supreme leader. Some archaeologists call this the peaceful realm. suggests a society based on trade, not conquest, a utopia where merchants, not warrior kings, called the shots. But how do you enforce standardized bricks and taxes without an army? We might know the answer if we could read their writing. We have found thousands of these small soapstone seals covered in animal motifs and about 400 distinct symbols. We have AI working on it. We have linguists working on it. But to this day, the Indus script remains undeciphered. We don't know their names. We don't know their gods. We don't even know what they called themselves. Indus Valley is just a name we gave them because of the river. They are an invisible empire. And then, around 1900 BC, the order began to break. It didn't happen overnight. The sewers began to clog. The streets were encroached upon by new, sloppy construction. The grand houses were subdivided into tenements. The standard weights became inaccurate. The system was failing. For a long time, historians thought it was an invasion, the so-called Aryan invasion theory. That has been largely debunked by modern evidence. There are no signs of a massacre at the layer of destruction. The real killer was likely much more terrifying because it was unstoppable: climate change. Evidence suggests that the monsoons migrated eastward, the great rivers that fed these cities, like the Saraswati, began to dry up or shift course due to tectonic activity. Without water, the plumbing civilization couldn't survive. The grid broke down. The people abandoned their high-tech cities and migrated toward the Ganges Plain, devolving into smaller, rural villages. They lost the knowledge of the script. They lost the knowledge of the bricks. They went back to mud. The Indus Valley civilization challenges everything we assume about history. It proves you don't need a tyrant king to build a megacity. It proves that sanitation is the bedrock of civilization. But it also serves as a warning. Even the most advanced, engineered, and orderly society on Earth is no match for a changing climate. They mastered the water until the water left them. What do you think is the most impressive part of their technology? The toilets or the grid? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to explore more lost worlds with us, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.